To save their own lives, two trusted members of Henry VIII's royal court perpetrated one of the most elaborate hoaxes in history. Or did they? Was it just a vicious rumor designed to undermine the crown? Royal cover up? Or whisper campaign intent on slandering the monarch? Did Elizabeth I carefully conceal her secret from the world? A secret so damaging that, if proven true, could change history. Welcome to Everything Vaguely Paranormal. Good evening. Welcome to Everything. I love the crown. I knew you were going to have the crown on. I couldn't find mine. I looked before we got started. I'm very jealous over here. Welcome to Everything Vaguely Paranormal. My name is Shelley Pruitt, and these are my partners in the paranormal, Mr. Blake Smith and Mr. Ryan Roberts.
Howdy.
You guys, I'm telling you, I have one that whenever I found this one, and I thought that, I'm a conspiracy theory nut. Give me a good story. Give me a good reason to doubt what everybody's always told me. And where I found this one, I went so down a rabbit hole, and I didn't realize I'd never heard of this conspiracy theory. So it starts out with like Queen Elizabeth. And of course, I love everything British monarchy. And it involves Henry VIII, which is my absolute favorite ruling monarch ever in England, because he was just basically double birds to the Pope and everybody else. I'm going to do what I want.
Pretty much.
Love that. So, how are you guys this evening before we get going? How are you guys? I know, I'm so excited.
Good. I'm doing pretty good. Excited to hear about this.
I think we're still going off the high of the weekend.
Absolutely.
Yes, I know. Let's just stop down and say thank you to everyone who attended the event in Longview. And you know what? What a good group.
Oh my God.
What a good group.
Amazing
Fantastic.
group.
Couldn't have asked for a better one.
I was so impressed with their energy. They were all gamers. Everybody had fun. I mean, I had a blast. And so let's see if I can do this, if I can name off everybody that was there. Thank you to our new friend, Greg. Thank you to Stacy, to Shirley, to Alex, to Holly, to Brenda, to Dana, to Crystal, to Tanya, to Gina, to Miss Pat, to Megan, to Aaron, to Chaz, and to Ashley. Did I get them all?
I believe
did you get Brenda?
You got it right. Yep.
I did.
Sure did.
Okay.
Believe you got everybody.
I got everybody.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yes,
what
thank you so much. A great group. Could not, like you said, could not have asked for more. They were so interactive. They were gamers. They were ready to go. And I believe that they caught some of the best evidence.
We had some exceptionally cool things happen.
Yeah.
And I believe that if you wanted to go and see some of the evidence that was caught, is it up on YouTube yet?
It is not yet, but it is coming. It is
coming.
I'll just say some of the Estes methods we caught this time, they were a damn trip. So when you get a chance, go check that out when they go live.
Those should be live by next week's podcast. So.
And we did our first guest dual Estes method, which we have never done before. And I have to tell you, that was a damn hoot.
That was.
Oh, yes.
That was funny. So anyway, guys, without
If
further
you,
ado,
I was gonna say if you missed this past event though, however, hang on to the bitter end of this episode because have we got news for you?
we have an announcement.
Big news.
Take it away, Shelley. Let's dive in.
So let's get started. We're going to talk about the Brits tonight, all right? I have mixed feelings about the British, but that's for personal reasons. So let me just go ahead and begin. Those of you that know me know what I'm talking about.
We're going to be banned overseas already.
No.
I'm just.
I like British people. I just have a problem with one in particular. Love me some Paul Hollywood. I love Paul Hollywood. He's a good silver fox. Anyway, enough about Paul Hollywood. Anyway, so tonight we're going to talk about Queen Elizabeth I. She was known as the Renaissance Queen of England. She was a very bright woman. She spoke 6 languages that she was fluent in. And during her reign, the arts and the sciences thrived in England. There were strides being made, and she was considered a very progressive queen. And if you didn't know, she's the daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn. Okay, so and you know how I say about King Henry, he was so in love with Anne Boleyn that he just, because the Pope wouldn't annul his marriage to his first wife, Catherine, he was just like, well, the hell with you. I'm going to break from the church and I'm going to start my own religion. I can get a divorce now. I can marry Anne Boleyn.
Anne Boleyn was the one he wrote Greensleeves about, right? That was her, right?
Yes, you're the human encyclopedia.
Okay.
You tell me.
Okay, I think it is. I wanted to make sure I wasn't just making shit up. So.
You could be. I wouldn't know. Okay. Let's just roll with it. Say yes.
Okay.
So this queen was very powerful, and she was known. She was probably one of her more shining moments. It was whenever she gave this rousing speech at Tilbury that inspired the troops to defeat the Spanish Armada in 1588. And she was also remembered, of course, because everybody's all about, whether a chick has virginity or not. She was known as the Virgin Queen. And that is something that allegedly she had that title until she passed away as being a Virgin Queen. So she did have, now, this was by choice, which was also very interesting because she did have many, many marriage proposals, but she declined them all because, as she stated, it felt like it weakened her position of power. And if you think about it, that was pretty smart because if there was a king, then suddenly there would be a big push to get an heir. And then what if they didn't like her? She could be killed off. The king could go into power. Or if she had an heir, they could be like, oh, we can do away with you or oust you. And if you have a child, then we're going to put that child into power. So she really was pretty smart in that aspect. Her quote is, she stated, I've already joined myself in marriage to a husband, and that is namely the Kingdom of England. She considered herself married to the job. A lot of people married to their job. I'm married to y'all in a weird kind of way, in paranormal way. It's kind of like, yeah, I call you my scary husbands.
I was like, it's a very weird polyamorous polygamy relationship we have going on.
We're in this odd little throuple. Look at me knowing naughty words. So, this vow of abstinence, though, by a ruler, this was very unusual because one of her duties, other than to rule and protect England, was to marry and produce an heir. And she was just like, not going to do it. And such a cool queen because she just would not conform to the expectations of anyone. She was not going to be what they thought at that time that a woman should be. And she was not going to be subservient to any man. She ruled with an iron will. So she was a powerful woman.
She kind of inherited her dad's attitude, it seems like.
Oh, yes. She was definitely her father's daughter, which she actually tends to prove quite often. And, of course, whenever the queen doesn't want to marry and wants to stay chaste and virgin, and stay a virgin, this led to a lot of rumors as to why. What's wrong with her? Why won't she marry? What's the matter? And so the theories begin to arise because, the court would gossip and the court would talk.
Of course.
Any little group, whenever they can't figure something out, what happens? Whisper, 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 whisper. And all of a sudden the chatter begins. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, not only that, but she's also a very powerful woman in a time where women were not seen as,
that's right,
as to the ones to rule and the ones to be powerful. So I think that with any ruler and with any person in power, there's always going to be rumors, but I think maybe these could have been more vicious and more malicious because she herself was a powerful woman.
And women that were in power got there in one of a very few ways. They either inherited it, which is what Queen Elizabeth did. They took it, which is what her sister Bloody Mary did. Or they were cunning enough to get a hold of it and hang on. Queen Catherine de' Medici of France. So you had to be extremely clever, you had to be extremely cunning, and you had to be smart enough to outwit all of these men who thought you were far too delicate to rule. And this, because of all the little whispers, brings us to the story and the rumor of the Bisley boy. I don't know if y'all have ever heard this or not, but by the time Elizabeth was 3, her father had beheaded her mother. And her older sister would become known as Bloody Mary. And Mary was Catherine and Henry from the first marriage. That was her older sister, was Mary. And see, Henry had actually annulled his marriage to Anne Boleyn. And whenever he did that, he annulled his marriage to Anne Boleyn before he chopped her head off. So technically that made Elizabeth illegitimate. So, I guess it was just your normal happy childhood, right? He's like, hey, daddy killed my mama. Now I'm a bastard. It's all cool. Let's go on with our story.
Damn, right as I took a swig of something to drink,
Shelly
screams out, I'm a bastard.
Oh, well, it's the truth, because she would have been considered a bastard. And fortunately, if something happened to Henry, who else is going to be there to rule? So when Elizabeth was about 10 years old, this is when the bubonic plague strikes England. Now, he wasn't altogether terrible because he did want his child, Anne Boleyn, his only living child at the time, other than the older sister who was going off acting crazy. So he sent her to live in a farming town, this little tiny farming town called Bisley. He figured that her being away from court and kind of away from all the people, kind of like in any plague, you want to isolate. So he sends her to this little town where he thinks that she'll be safe. And he sends her with her governess, which is Lady Cat Ashley. And someone he trusted with his child's life, the guardian named Thomas Parry. He was basically there to educate and defend Elizabeth and make sure that she was safe no matter what. So, hooray, Elizabeth is spared from the Black Death. Yay. Okay. So she's in Bisley, she's being educated and she's safe. However, it's speculated that she contracted another illness. Now, the historians vary on this. I've seen 2 or 3 different ones, but the generally accepted idea of what she got was smallpox. So, and that she becomes very ill. She becomes very ill, and Lady Cat Ashley and Thomas Parry are doing everything they can to make sure that she gets well, and no expenses being spared. And while she is very, very sick, news comes from the king saying that King Henry is coming to visit his daughter. Well, now, he didn't just pick up the phone and go ring, ring out down the hall. He had to send somebody on horseback. I got to go to Bisley, and he's, and he's delivering. He walks in, he's like, I have news from the king. I have news from the king. Now, whenever the king sent him out, the king couldn't have been too terribly far behind him.
Well, luckily, it probably took that horse a long time to lug Henry's fat ass all the way to Bisley. So they had a little bit of extra time.
Perhaps they had. So, but this is kind of where we turn off the believable path and go down conspiracy theory lane. It's alleged that after the wire arrives saying that Henry is coming to visit Elizabeth, that Elizabeth actually dies before Henry arrives. And of course, this is not good. Thomas Perry and Lady Cat Ashley would have essentially lost the most valuable child in England.
Shit.
Gone. And, Henry wasn't really known for being merciful. They knew that if they told him that his daughter, his heir, the most valuable child in England was dead, they were probably going to meet with the chopping block. They were probably, next time they'd see him would be at the end of an executioner's axe. So, it was going to be pretty gruesome because Henry was probably going to be pissed. So, fearing Henry's wrath, they decided they'd come up with a plan. They decided that they would replace the princess. So they scoured Bisley, looking for a little girl that resembled Elizabeth. But to no avail. The governess, though, however, was like, wait. I remember. Elizabeth has a playmate. It was a pretty child with red hair and a pale complexion and had been also educated with Elizabeth. So this child would have been smart enough, but there was only one problem. The child was a little boy named Neville. So what to do, because they've already figured out there's not another little 10-year-old, red-headed, pale-skinned little girl in all of Bisley. But Neville's close. Neville's real close. So they were out of options and they were out of time. The king was due to arrive any minute. So what did they do? What do they do, guys?
Here, pretend to be sick and lie in this bed.
I want to say, I've seen this sitcom before, I think.
Sounds very Weekend at Bernie's, doesn't it?
I'm just, okay. I don't know. My first thing is like, it's his child. You would think that he would notice, wouldn't you? Okay, well, I don't know. How long's it been since he's seen her? That's the first question that I come to.
Two, you got to think, okay, so they're going to dress, they got to do what they got to do. They're going to dress this boy up just like Elizabeth. I think that's what's going to happen. And if, think about how today there are a lot of parents who are in powerful positions or more well-to-do, and they are very, very detached from their kids' lives, and they're just like, whatever, do whatever. Thomas, do whatever you would like to do, so with him being the king and her being away for such a long time and him being kind of just like, whatever, I've got a country to run, I don't think he'd notice.
So with the king due to arrive just any minute and them being out of time and out of options, allegedly the body of the princess was quickly buried in her finest garments on the grounds of a manor in Bisley. And poor little Neville. Oh, no. He was dressed in Elizabeth's clothes.
I knew it.
And a wig was put on his head, and he was told to behave and be silent, else he'd be revealed to be an imposter and suffer the wrath and the punishment of the king. So basically, they told this little kid,
I was like, to a little kid,
you F up, the king's going to cut your head off. They said, you stand there and you shut up. Don't you say a word.
Okay, so if we're going down conspiracy lane here, these two people are it's like one bad thing or the next. Like, tell him
either they die or
daughter has died. The heir, the future Queen of England, has died under their care, or we replace her and bury her body, which could have been death right there for them as well. So they were, I guess
they were in a no-win situation.
They were like, look, we're just going to do this. You put this wig on, put this dress on, get in this bed a few times, and we're going to hope it flies, because if not, we're dead either way it goes.
Henry was never told that Elizabeth was ever sick. So they couldn't even play that angle. She fell ill right before the information arrived that the king was coming. Go ahead, Brian.
So my question is Okay, you tell this kid this. Kids are not very good at keeping a lid on stuff. And that's a lot of pressure to put on a kid. So if I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I buy it just yet.
So here's how they did it.
Okay.
So Henry arrives early in the morning. He's tired, like, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And whenever he arrives, of course, everyone comes out to greet the king. They placed little Neville, dressed as little Elizabeth, stood the child at the end of the dimly lit hallways because, there weren't electric lights, just candlelight. So they stood the child at the end of the hallway of the Bisley Manor. Tired and sick and weary as Henry was, because remember, he's suffering from syphilis and gout, and he's been riding all day, and he's just there, and he walks through, and he sees the child, and he goes to bed because he'd never been informed that Elizabeth was ill, and he had no reason to suspect that the child that was in front of him was not Elizabeth. So remarkably, the deception appeared to have worked. Again, but how? So here's how. Henry rarely saw his daughter, and he was used to not hearing her speak, because really, if your daddy cut your mama's head off, I'm not exactly sure you'd be going, Pops, come give me a hug. You'd be like, hey.
Here's your father's date card.
Yeah, it's kind of like, yeah. So Elizabeth was known to be very shy and very timid, and very, very much in fear of her father, very intimidated by her father, and she was always had been very quiet around her father. And again, she wasn't going to speak up in front of somebody who cut her mama's head off, because if you think she didn't know about that, she probably did. So it wasn't unusual for her not to speak to him, stand at the end and curtsy and bow to the king, and he goes off to his room. And Henry was going on a hunting expedition. And after he slept, he departed that afternoon without saying goodbye to Elizabeth. So they'd done it. Lady Cat Ashley and Thomas Perry had fooled the king. The ruse had worked. Yeah, but now what?
I say for now, yeah.
Yeah, because now you've got a whole freaking life now. What are you gonna do?
Keep it up, yeah.
So you've solved your problem in the moment. But now what? What do? Do they find a girl now? Do they find a replacement for the replacement? So to save their lives and the lives of their family, they were basically going to have to teach this Bisley boy how to be a princess, because they've scoured the whole countryside. There's no one that looks like Elizabeth. Little boy Neville is the closest that they can find. And how in the world are you going to tell Henry now? I mean, you escaped his wrath this one time. You got lucky, but you have the perfect child that's already fooled the king. Now you have to keep the ruse up. So
I mean, couldn't they just say "Oh, sir, I don't know what happened, but she was kidnapped on the way back to the palace." And
do you think that would have, if they were alive and the child was dead, do you think he wouldn't behead them right then?
Of course he would.
Thomas Perry's sole job was to protect her and educate her. Lady Cat Ashley was to take care of anything feminine that she needed and teach her to sew and to sing and to be ladylike. If they were alive and she was not, do you think they had any chance of survival in King Henry's court?
I mean, you have to keep up this facade now for the rest of your life.
That's right.
If he was as sick as we know he was, and he's as distracted as we know he was, I mean, maybe they don't have to worry about him too very often.
Perhaps that's why they thought that they could do it.
Do we know how long after this King Henry croaked?
I do not know the exact time frame that this went on. But the legend, and I'll tell you this, the legend still persists in England to this day. I mean, for centuries, there there has been whispers that there was an English monarch that had been a child from the village of Bisley, and that this Bisley boy became Queen Elizabeth I. Now, to support the idea that the Queen was actually a king, here's your checkpoints. They cited never been married.
Okay.
Okay, because you would have to consummate the marriage. Okay. Don't think your husband would like to go, let's get married, honey. Whoa, what the hell is that? Okay.
Oh,
That's not
just my
something you
Slim
can really
Jim.
keep a secret if you get married, okay? They're going to see your naughty bits.
Yeah.
So if your naughty bits ain't what you expecting, that could be an issue.
Yeah, no.
She never had children. Well, a man cannot reproduce, so she never acknowledged a lover. Although she was rumored to have many, she never acknowledged that she had a lover. Also, she was very fond of proclaiming that she was more of a king than a queen. Queen Elizabeth often said that she was more of a king than a queen.
Now you know that I told Brian before you had hopped on tonight that I said, you know what, I love Queen Elizabeth. Everything about the Elizabethan age and her rule and everything. I'm infatuated by her. I've studied her for years and years. But I told Ryan, I said, actually, this is one tonight that I myself have not even heard of, and I'm actually going to walk into this blind. But that is one thing I will say, in all that I have read and studied about her, she has said that many, many times about herself. She put herself on the level of a king.
That's right. She said, I have the heart of a king. I am not weak as a queen might be. I have the heart of a king.
Yeah, but you know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that she had to bolster herself like that, and she had to have that bravado and carry herself in that particular way, because you know there's vultures waiting in the wings for her to make some sort of mistake, for them to be like, well, obviously a woman can't rule, so I need to be the one that's doing this. I don't know.
But do personalities change, gentlemen? Is it your opinion that personalities change?
I think that people can change, absolutely. Like, I'm not the same person.
Personalities change.
Depends on
circumstances,
pressures. Depends on. Yeah, I mean, it just depends on what you got going on, I guess. I mean, there are some people now. Okay, there are some people that you know, and I know them too. We all know people in our lives that are chameleons. Whatever situation that they're in,
they adapt.
Exactly. And their personalities and their mannerisms, and everything can change depending on the situation that they find themselves in. So I guess wait, yes.
Are you talking about, it depends on what you say about change in personality. Are you talking about over a short amount of time, or are we talking about this is one of those little check marks that it was like from one night to the next, Queen or Princess Elizabeth at this time, or Lady Elizabeth, whatever she would be titled, flipped 180 overnight? Because that, no. But over time, yes, I believe that personalities can change as you adapt, like Ryan said, to pressures and all different stuff that you have going on.
So while the child Elizabeth was always known to be very sweet and a sunny disposition, but always also very shy and quiet. She was very sweet, but always very happy, but very shy, very timid, very quiet. The princess suddenly became a little bit more bold and more outgoing. And again, educated. A professor went so far as to say that her math skills, that he couldn't believe that a female could do math like this, that this was something that was more that of a male than a female. Now, in her reign, Queen Elizabeth, again, she was known to have been shy, and suddenly she was bold and just impervious to what anybody said about her. She was just going to plow through, and she was going to run over you, and it was her rule and her way or the highway. So two very different aspects of even the child was being seen. The behavior was different in the child, which led to a difference in what one person who might have known Elizabeth as a child and now seeing Elizabeth as the queen, it didn't mesh with what they'd seen when she was younger, when they knew her when she was 7, 8, 9, 10.
Well, maybe
And
she was
when
feeling herself, like I'm
maybe
coming
so.
into her own. And, at the time, I have to imagine, because she had no brothers, because she had no one that was going to ascend the throne, she was like, look, I better get with it, or I'm not going to be around too long. So maybe she pushed herself to adhere to being more outgoing and more bold, more brash.
So evolve or die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Evolve or die. So let me give you another point of contention. Lady Cat Ashley and Thomas Perry never strayed from Elizabeth's side. Never. Never. Even when she was imprisoned in the Tower of London, they kept vigil at the doors and allowed no one in without them, and stayed by Elizabeth's side no matter what. No one ever saw Elizabeth without full makeup. No one ever saw her without a wig. And this Elizabethan age has the big ruffs and the collars around the necks. Elizabeth was never painted without something around her neck, which was alleged to have concealed an Adam's apple. And those ruffs were made famous by Queen Elizabeth. That was part of the Elizabethan age. It was her style of dress. The ruffs were alleged to be up around the neck to conceal an Adam's apple that had formed on young little Neville, and that was used to hide and conceal.
I'm pulling up pictures. I'm looking. Because I'm like, wait a minute, are you sure?
She's always painted with something around her neck.
Well, I be damned.
And she's always, like, her dresses are very, very
concealing.
Yeah, they're very poofy. It's like,
well, now those sleeves and stuff, that was the fashion of the time. But
True.
also, that is Elizabeth's fashion.
Yet functional, if we're going by this logic.
But again, there's something around her neck there.
Now, I will say, in monarchy history, or British monarch history, about the being with her at all times. Now, I know in another study of another very powerful long-reigning queen, of Queen Victoria, she was never allowed by herself at all. She would never be allowed to walk around the palace without somebody beside her. She was not allowed to walk up or down stairs by herself. She had to go without holding someone's hand. So for me personally, that fact, now it's a little weird that they held vigil at the door in the Tower of London. I will give you that. But the fact of actually like being next to her and near her at all times without ever leaving her side is not as weird as you think, because that has happened to different heirs throughout time.
They always have a trusted member, because when Elizabeth was crowned, she did make Lady Cat her first lady of the bedchamber, and that is the person who would dress her. Why Lady Cat Ashley? Why Lady Cat Ashley?
All right, damn it.
And again, who better than to be the person who has seen her in her birthday suit, and probably more than anybody.
Or who better to make sure that the secret was kept?
Yeah.
So you have to remember this, and plus too, they said something about the makeup. The makeup was something they referenced quite a bit in several of the articles. But of course, at that time, the makeup was very heavy and it was very cakey, and it until that point really hadn't been. That's kind of when they went to the whole, the heavy white makeup.
Very pale.
Very pale. Very pale, with the rouge painted in circles on the cheeks, and almost clown-like. And this, unfortunately, a lot of this makeup at this time was made with mercury, which would cause your skin to peel off. And it just seems like Elizabeth, because she was never seen without makeup, that they would literally constantly apply this makeup, which in fact was actually killing the skin. So they kind of made the rest of it so she never was without her makeup, and that, she aged more like a male than a female. But of course, she's wearing all this makeup, and so I don't know. But that heavy makeup really became an Elizabethan style, and was that because they were trying to conceal the fact that she was not a she was a he. So that's kind of a point of contention. So again, she had made Lady Cat Ashley her first lady of the bedchamber when she was crowned, which was the person who was to never leave her side. Also, Queen Elizabeth only allowed her most trusted physicians to attend to her when she was ill, often waiting until she would almost be at the brink of literally death before allowing a physician to come anywhere near her. Now, you're in power and you get sick. I mean, think of the president. The president gets sick, he got doctors all over him.
But once again, let's think about it from this point of view. You have physicians that you trust. Once again, there are vultures waiting in the wings to pick up where you left off. And so what if it was a precautionary measure to be like, I don't trust Dr. Bill over here because Dr. Ted's been my doctor forever and Dr. Bill might try to poison me. You know what I'm saying?
But she only allowed her trusted physicians.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
but why would you wait until you were so sick? And I saw this cited in numerous stories that she would wait until she was so ill that she had to have a doctor.
I think
that she had to.
She may have been a control freak.
Could there be? This would be something to look into because I don't think I've ever come across this in anything that I've read about her. Could there be something in her beliefs that keeps her from taking steps forward with medicine or some sorts like that? But then all of a sudden now she's close to death or on her deathbed, or they're like, you're going to die. Like, you need something. You're going to die. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, okay, let's call the doctor. I don't know.
And again, why not try to head it off with the past? Why not, if I have a sniffle, why not I go to my trusted physician and give me a mixture or tincture or tonic that can get me over this rather than have me get so sick that I have to have someone come and check me further than I would have.
But you're also sitting there saying that she had trusted physicians. So that right there is going to lead somebody to believe that in her belief system, some type of medicine plays some type of part in it. She's not going to hold very crazy religious, I wouldn't call them crazy, but just highly held religious beliefs that has an avoidance to any medical interference. So since she has trusted physicians, that's
and now there's something that I also kind of came across, and this actually, to me, I'm kind of debunking my own points here, makes sense, was that her trusted physicians may or may not have always been at court. Yeah. They were physicians, and perhaps if she felt ill, then word had to be sent and the physician had to be found and the physician had to make his way back to the castle because she would not allow any physicians except her trusted physicians to come near her. They couldn't. So you would think that she'd keep one or two of them on a court, but apparently not. So that was also interesting that she wouldn't take whatever doctor was there if she was sick. She had to have her trusted physician. And being a monarch, I can understand that. But she also left explicit instructions that after her death, her body was to never be autopsied. Never. There was to be no autopsy. And instead of a grand state funeral, her body was interred with her sister, Bloody Mary, in Westminster Abbey. There was no this grand state whenever a monarch passes away and they're, this time of, she said, no autopsy. You put me in the ground right next to my sister in Westminster Abbey. Don't do anything to me. So she left very explicit instructions about that.
So could that go to, I mean, she is a queen and she is one of these that she's very, 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 very powerful and obstinate woman in her ruling. I mean, she got and did what she wanted to. Could she be in fear of somebody doing damage to her body or some sorts, maybe stealing an organ or defacing her body? Because they are technically at that point, they're anointed by God. So,
and grave robbers were a thing then.
Do you think anyone is going to be allowed close enough to her body anyway to
well, no, probably.
Well, here's the thing. So your idea of her being afraid of medicine and stuff, it really doesn't hold true because the arts and the sciences thrived during Elizabeth's rule. She funded things like that. Sure. That was something she wanted to explore. She wanted to learn. She wanted to know about, and she wanted her people to be free of things like the bubonic plague and smallpox. That she encouraged medical advances. So go ahead, Brian.
Sorry, your face got stuck for a second. It was really
I'm
funny.
Sorry.
No. It was the thing. But I think that maybe she was just really weird about her body and who got to see and or touch her body, and maybe even in death, she felt the same way. or
See,
I
that's
don't know.
feeding it. In my opinion, that's feeding into the conspiracy. That she was
But
very
well,
no,
There
because
are very few
it
people.
is because you got to turn around and you got to automatically ask, why is she afraid of people touching or examining her body? What is the reason?
but there are people that are just like really particular about who they want to see them and who they want, and it, not necessarily because they're trying to hide anything. They're just like very particular.
Oh yeah, not me. I mean, you better ship me off
none
to
of
the
us, but some
crematorium
people
just
are.
and
Yeah.
and
Oh, for
burn
instance,
my ass.
my Meemaw does not want to be cremated. She has explicitly said, "Do not cremate me." I mean, it just
But
depends.
your Meemaw, Ryan, somebody's seen your Meemaw naked. I hate to tell you that.
Well, I'm here, so I assume so. but
Most people don't deny themselves any kind of human companionship or human interaction. Most people do not
people
deny
are
themselves.
just, I mean, and strange isn't the right word, but some people are just very peculiar and very particular.
But we also, with the human companion part, we also personally, in her mind, with her religious beliefs, we also don't know how in high of regard she held those, because I mean, they're anointed with the crown. When you had the crown, especially back, I know it's people may think differently this day in this day and age, but especially back then, they were anointed by God.
Mm-hmm. They were the holy bloodline.
That's
so we don't know what her personal beliefs are within her mind and that relationship, which I think ties into a couple of them. The human companionship, maybe she felt like that could get in the way with the relationship and the beliefs that she held, and also with no autopsy. I mean, a defacing of something that is seen as holy. I don't know. That's just some points I'm throwing.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not long after Elizabeth began to reign and had been coronated, it was alleged that a priest had come across the buried body of a child, of a 10-year little girl, on the grounds of the Bisley Manor, and that the child was a little girl about 10 years old in finery that was not known to the people of the area, even with small jewels stitched on her clothing. And those definitely would not have been buried by any kind of commoner.
Mm-hmm.
Fearing for his life that he had unearthed something that potentially could get him killed because he had desecrated a grave, it's alleged that he secreted the body away to a church and gave it a proper burial in church, in holy church, in a holy church graveyard, consecrated ground.
Mm-hmm.
But he neglected to tell us where he took her. This is a story that persists, that there actually was a priest who, again, happened upon this grave in the far corner of the manors.
But we don't know where he took her.
We don't know where he took her.
And
I smell a rumor mill.
How do we know the story too? If we don't know where he took her, we don't. Well, there's no body to prove it. Was this like in his? Do you know if it was in like his journal, or if this is just like oral tradition passed down? Or
allegedly, he had told other members of his other trusted ministers in his. I don't know what the hierarchy is. Not the congregation. That's the people in his trusted circle of other priests and ministers
that like he elders, pretty much.
Yes, that he had a. Now this is a story, and he had to have told someone, or it would not have been passed down. That he had unknowingly and accidentally unearthed a child's body when he was digging a garden to put in the corner of the Bisley Manor. By a stone wall is where he allegedly found the body. And then it was the body of a 10-year-old child, a little girl in fancy dress with jewels on her clothing.
Now, when it comes to conspiracy theory, I have a hard time believing certain segments whenever there's not something that may have survived, that may not be.
But do you think the good priest would have stripped a jewel off of a dead body, especially that of a child? God, no.
No. And of course, they're going to know back then, obviously, when you unearth a body and it's in all the fine garments that it is with the jewels and everything.
That's
like
what he
this,
was. He was afraid he messed up.
Yeah. This is somebody of a royal status, of a royal
or
bloodline
at least
of some
great
sort.
prominence.
Yeah. And so he's going to know that. I don't know. I just have, and I'm not even talking about like a jewel or a piece of the clothing or something, but not even a handwritten account in a journal that they found after he died.
Yeah.
I mean,
And why tell anybody if you think you have truly messed up?
He needed counsel as to what to do.
Dig a garden somewhere else and cover
Now,
it back
he
up.
needed it said
Yeah.
it said that he needed counsel for what to do, and they said rebury the child in consecrated ground.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, we know Ryan will eventually appear on 2020 with that answer.
No.
Rebury, cover it up.
No.
Hurry, go.
It's like, I don't want nothing to do with this. I'm going to put a garden over here.
Well, first of
you
all,
stay over there. Yeah.
First of all, dude, you never go back to move the body. You hire somebody else to do that. You never go back to the scene of the crime. That's how your ass gets caught. I watch enough Murder Channel.
I was going to say, and this is why we'll see Shelley on I Almost Got Away with It in the future.
Because Shelley already got away with it, allegedly. I've never killed anybody.
Just add that to the file, FBI Joe.
Yes, FBI Joe, if you're listening. Yes, allegedly. No, I've never injured anyone. I'm not about violence. I'm all about psychological revenge.
Oh, shit. Damn, Shelley.
So, gentlemen, Queen Elizabeth ruled, was powerful, took her place, remained the Virgin Queen until her passing, and was known to quote herself as being more of a king than a queen. But was she a queen? Was she Queen Elizabeth I, or was she King Neville of Bisley?
I'm going to say that for me, on this one, I don't have enough hard evidence to jump on this train. That's my opinion. Because this is where my mind goes. She was a powerful queen. She did refer herself to herself as a king. I'll give you that. She was one of Britain's most powerful rulers. Like you said, she helped the arts and the sciences thrive. However, we also know that she had a lot of beef from people that wanted to beat the shit out of her, basically. Let's just put it that way in today's terms.
She was technically a bastard on the throne. She had a lot of enemies.
And so what is it to say that this isn't somebody who, after she has died, is retaliating against her legacy that she's leaving behind?
Or someone very unhappy that she's even there.
Very true. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. She's a powerful woman in a powerful position. And what better way to discredit her than to say she's a man?
See, and that was one point I was going to make, Ryan, because especially in the past and in past times, a woman who does so well, my God, she must be a man in disguise or something. Or she had a man behind her pushing the buttons and controlling things or something.
Yeah.
Which is allegedly the reason she never married. She was going to be subservient to no one. And back then, the women, you're supposed to just know your place, little lady, bear the babies and make the dinner. And other than that, you need to shut your pretty little mouth and look cute and just stand over there. And she was like, oh, no.
And I'm sorry, but I will go over all the stuff in history that I've read that has to do with the monarchy. Most of the best rulers in that area were queens. The countries thrived under queens for the most part in that area. So this whole theory,
those men were all out getting syphilis and hunting buck and elk and all kinds of crap and having concubines. And
that's my thing, is that the fact that a woman can't do what a man does, so it must be a man behind it, or she must be it was replaced at a young age and was a man instead. It's all fucking bullshit. We know women are more than capable of doing everything a man can do. And I think it's kind of like that jealous ex-best friend. You're living the life over here, and they don't have all the hoop and holler that you got, so we're just going to talk shit about you instead.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
How dare you live your life?
How dare you be happy?
Yeah, I think that, like pretty much what Blake was saying, I think that it's fun to think about with this one. I think it's kind of a, it's a kind of it's a head scratcher. Like, could it be? here's all this like here's all this circumstantial evidence, but there's like no hardcore, like, we know at least this much about. So I think it's fun to think about, but I don't think that Queen Elizabeth was actually a boy.
They aren't going to let him in to look at the Queen's chotch to make sure it's not going to happen.
Well, no, they're not. But I will.
Excuse me, Royal Chotch Inspector here.
How do you get that job?
I don't know. Someone call me if anybody needs.
I'm a CI, Chotch Inspector.
But yeah,
you made some really good points, and I'm not gonna lie. There for a little bit, like when you started labeling off, especially the fact that them following her around and being with her and holding vigil outside the door while she's in the Tower of London. You made me stop and think. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm just one of those people that there has to be a thread of something. There's got to be a journal entry or a something of this or that of that to be able to.
You have to remember the ruler controls the history books. Nothing would be written or said that Elizabeth did not expressly put her stamp on, or Neville didn't put his stamp on. Remember, history is written by the winners and the people in power.
Yeah,
and she was the one in power. And if you don't think she could control anything, don't be wrong. She was alleged to have had lovers, but you get in there and it isn't what you think it's going to be. All she says, you say a word, I cut your head off. Have a good day, sir. I said, good day.
Well,
maybe she could have invited him and said, look, you're just here for looks. Have a drink, stay the night. You're on the couch. I'm in here. Get your ass out in the morning.
I think it actually kind of goes back, and we actually just had a comment on this to what Ryan said earlier, is that we got to think of who her dad was, honestly.
Oh, and yeah.
I think that
didn't play.
But at the same time, I think, and Brandy commented, and she says, I think her childhood. She said, I think her childhood played a lot in how she ruled and her adulthood. And I can't help but think that might actually be true, because think of who her dad is. I mean, you didn't give me a good air. You're done. I mean, how many times, And so obviously that's traumatic. So you're going to end up having some type of trust issue.
And if all you've been modeled is really bad relationships, and you have to remember, she was a princess. She was a princess, whether she was declared illegitimate or not. She was still the daughter of Henry VIII, and he still took care of her. And trust me, whenever we're talking about mafia parents, they keep people away from their children. So Elizabeth probably grew up very isolated and was used to this aloneness, was used to being alone, probably learned how to exist without any human interaction and anybody else other than Lady Cat Ashley and Thomas Perry. But I just don't understand why they never left her side. Because you see, if they were, and she were to change her mind, and it were to get out, they are still in jeopardy of perpetrating a hoax. Why would she let them away from her?
Even though she never had a lover that she acknowledged, or had a husband or anything like that, she could have been codependent on them, and that's why they stayed with her so much. And she
kind of like a mother and father figure.
I need you at my beck and call anytime. Like, you need to be with me, because they practically raised her. Her father was Henry VIII, but he was out doing whatever. And these two are the ones that were acting as a mother and father for her.
Swilling grog and banging concubines.
What a life.
I mean, he did other stuff too, but Henry VIII is known for his many wives. So, he would, he's never going to win any Father of the Year, awards. So I can actually, now I have to tell you, it's my opinion. I love this conspiracy theory because there's just enough about it that you kind of go, interesting. It's interesting. And you can make an argument for it on both sides, because she never let us see enough private to, I mean, there's
no
just a lot. But... Yeah, exactly. No, I know me and my, anyway. But I'm going to tell you that I think that this strong, smart, powerful, beautiful decisive woman was actually a queen. That she was a queen in every sense of the word. I would not want to take anything away from her, but I got to tell you, when I read this, I'm like, Queen Elizabeth was actually King Neville? What? And that was fascinating to me. Now, again, I actually went to look to see if I could find if there was ever a Neville anywhere documented in the town of Bisley. Well, they didn't keep real good records back then. Did not find anything about a Neville or anything that had the surname Neville. Could not find it. But Elizabeth would have been educated with other members that of because if this was in this Bisley manor, this was not a small area, and there would have been other people that would have been kind of at court for when Henry came that would have kept the place nice. So she would have been educated with any other children that might have been there, probably if nothing more than to just break up the isolation. But Neville could have been there. I don't know, but it's my opinion that she was 100% a queen. Absolutely. I have to go with that.
Absolutely. I didn't.
She was 100. So no takers, huh? On the nope. The Bisley boy was actually, Queen Elizabeth the First.
Just a nasty rumor from her detractors.
I agree. I think that's exactly what it is. I think that there's people either throughout her life or after her death or throughout history or whatnot that just came across her was like, a woman can't do this. She must have been replaced with a boy,
Oh my goodness, what will we do when she gets her period and she cries? What do we do? Oh, we have to lock her away for a couple of weeks. You know what they used
Charles,
to do?
if she gets her period, she's going to cut off your head.
It's like, okay, I believe that the royalty has a little PMS today. Everyone bring chocolate and smile, boys, smile. I mean, they probably had no effing idea what to do.
She said she wants banana pudding. I don't know what the hell a banana is.
Someone find me a banana. I mean, yeah. So that I mean, yeah, they probably had no idea what to do with her. And I think that it probably being of who her father was, I think they were just frightened enough of her not to test her too much.
They're probably like, shit, if she's half as crazy as he is, we don't want to cross her.
And she kind of was. She kind of was.
She was a little bit crazy and just super. I mean, the woman was like, they had, I think, 2 attempts on her life. Just
someone tried to poison her.
And then she was fired at, if I remember correctly, she was shot at in the middle of prayer, I think, too. So I mean, obviously, she had haters.
You got to remember, her sister has the nickname of Bloody Mary. She's over there, cutting off heads to doing just what her father, King Henry, did. So they're like, oh, apple doesn't fall from the tree. This one over here is acting a little nutty. Let's keep this one happy, So, you got Bloody Mary over there who's killing people left and right and eventually is, loses her position and title and power because she rules for a very short time before Elizabeth comes to power. But, they're probably like, okay, we had one crazy bitch. This one really can't be a female. This got to be a guy. It's got to be a guy. Way too even temperamental. Okay, not acting nutty like the other one did. So I don't know.
Well, and then there's the whole thing with her and Mary Queen of Scots.
Her cousin
rumble that they had that ended in another.
Which is alleged that Mary Queen of Scots was actually more legitimate of an heir to the throne of England than Queen Elizabeth herself was.
And it is alleged through genealogy research that Mary Queen of Scots is my 14 times great grandmother. So I'm just saying, I don't know where my land's at. I don't know where oh wait, hold on. It's right here. That's right.
There you go. Put on your crown, baby, and wear it proudly.
Forgot. Mary Queen of Scots is my great grandmother.
That's right. Smile and wave. Boys.
All the way from Edinburgh to Longview.
Exactly. Damn it. Damn it. Where is my what's it called? Where's my booty? Where's my bounty? Where's my treasure in my island? Like, why can't be like Princess Diaries? Somebody just be like, by the way, you're the ruler of this country. Awesome, let's go.
You started talking about your booty, and I got nervous. I'm like, wait a minute, where the hell is this conversation going? Okay, I didn't realize you were talking about loot. Okay, took me a hot second.
Where's my treasure?
And your loot.
Where's my jewels?
Well, gentlemen, I hope you have enjoyed this little story that took me down crazy train land out of about 16 different articles I was reading, and I'm actually shocked. I'm sure that somewhere that there is a documentary done on this somewhere. I did not find it. I actually had to read everything. Oh, oh. Um, but I'm sure there's a documentary somewhere. I did not find it, but I am actually curious as to why there is not some kind of documentary about this conspiracy theory, because this one, and I left out a lot of stuff. I tried to hit the main points. There's actually a lot more stuff where at the end of it, I'm going, that might be possible. And then I'm going, nah. But then I went, maybe. I don't know. I liked it. It fascinated me. Me every time. I mean, I almost, at least once, twice a week, I look up top 100 craziest conspiracy theories just to see if anything changed. So.
Just
So,
to
gentlemen,
see if
she's a
we're
queen.
up in the top 5.
That's right. So, queen.
Yes, I'm going to go with queen. Definitely
Queen.
think she's the queen.
Bet we'd love to hear
Absolutely.
what you guys have to say. Put it in there.
Absolutely.
Queen
Y'all let us
or King
know what y'all
Neville.
think.
Little redheaded King Neville.
King Neville.
Think of how history would be different. King Neville of Bisley.
God. Well, anyways, y'all, we thank y'all for joining us. Miss Shirley says hi. Miss Shirley, hi.
Yeah, Miss Shirley. Miss Shirley said, "Fuck you" to me in an Estes method. Sweet little Miss Shirley. Little Miss Shirley had on her cute little black beret, and she's doing an Estes method. And I said, I'm walking out of the door, and I said, well, I hope you're not upset that I'm leaving. And Miss Shirley in the Estes method goes, "Fuck you," and I'm going, well, all right, sweet little Miss Shirley said "F you" to me.
You did.
You know what? Miss Shirley's got a nasty mouth. Hated Miss Shirley.
But that's evidence that y'all can catch at another time.
Yes, please go and watch Miss Shirley telling me to F off.
Well,
whenever it goes up on our YouTube stuff.
Yeah. When we get it posted, we will definitely let y'all know, because that's some really good evidence. And if we have enough,
Shirley, a little spitfire.
If we have enough in 2 weeks, we're going to attempt to try and do an episode over our first public investigation of the Gregg County Historical Museum.
Mm-hmm.
Because next week, Ryan, what is next week? It's your
baby. Mothman.
Your baby.
Mothman.
And y'all, I'm just going to tell you off the bat really quick. Mothman is just a small part of the story. There is a lot more going on than just Mothman. And we'll get into that next week, though.
Absolutely.
Mothman involves aliens and conspiracies and, oh my God, you name it. He's a cryptid. But he's
Black.
Men in Black, but he's a future foretelling cryptid. Ooh.
Well, we'll get into that next week.
We'll get into that next week. I'm excited.
It's gonna be a good one. But y'all, we thank y'all for joining us this week for Everything Vegas Paranormal. Please remember,
tell them
we are on all social media platforms, not just the one you're currently watching us on. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you go and follow us across the board, because we use those for different reasons. We don't ever post everything to every single social media page. And also, if you want to stay up to date on the most news, that is probably going to be our Facebook. So make sure, if you want to hear about tickets, events, or anything else that we may have coming up, make sure that you're at least following us on there. And also, we told you, we tell you at the very end of this episode, we are going to go ahead and reveal it. But because of demand, the Longview Museum, or the Gregg County Historical Museum, has graciously allowed us one more date to come in. So mark your calendars. June the 11th, we will be back. And if you are not a Patreon member, I implore you to go be a Patreon member, because Shelley revealed all the new equipment we're going to have at the next Gregg County Historical Museum.
That's right. If you get a chance, you should go and become a Patreon member. We aren't the people that have, like, you got to buy a $5 tier, $10 tier, 20. We don't do that. One tier, you get everything, because we're not about nickel and diming you. You want some cool content. You want to have a drink with me on Spirits with Shelley. If you want to hear a bedtime story from Blake, or if you want to see some of the things that Ryan reviews, and I got to tell you, he told me he reviewed something nasty last night. I'm like going, oh, yuck. But anyway, it's on Patreon. You can get all of our pre-broadcast, and every time before we come on the air, we do 30 minutes. We talk about some crazy crap on that, y'all. I'd like to say we talk about the show. Usually not.
Sometimes, but it's
rarely. Quit lying to them. We don't freaking talk about this.
Rarely.
You want to hear about me get stuck in an extra small sports brawl? That was tonight's pre-broadcast. So please go become a member of Patreon and see what you're missing. Brian, tell them how else that they can participate.
Support.
Okay. You can go on Apple Music and rate and review us. Please, 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 please do that. Please do the same thing on Spotify, because the more you rate, and I mean, not the more you rate and review, but like if you rate us and review us, the higher up we go on the charts and the more we are visible to other people, and the better content we can bring you, because we can focus more time and energy into this. So please, please, please go do that.
So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. And I hope you enjoyed the story of the Bisley Boy. Please make up your own mind. And as always, I'm Shelley Pruitt. For my partners, Mr. Ryan Robertson, Mr. Blake Smith, we're going to say goodnight to you. Thank you for watching Everything Vaguely Paranormal, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Bye, y'all.